How many times have you felt discouraged, as if nothing was going right and the challenges seemed greater than your strength? I know these moments are tough, and sometimes it feels like everything is against you. But today, I come with a powerful message. God is calling you to lift your head. Your victory is closer than you think, and what seems impossible to your eyes, God is already transforming into a miracle. If you're facing struggles, financial challenges, health problems, or even a crisis in your faith, stay with me until the end of this video. Because here, you will discover that even in the darkest days, God hasn't forgotten you. He is preparing a blessing that will change your story, and I'm going to show you how this can happen in your life. Don't give up now, because your spiritual victory is already on its way, and I'll explain how you can receive this imminent blessing. Before continuing, I want to ask you something special. If this message is already touching your heart, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with those who also need hope. Together, we can reach many lives with this transformative word. And if you need prayer, leave your request in the comments. We will pray for you, trusting that God is hearing your prayers and will bless you in a surprising way. God sends you a personal message. When God approaches to deliver a message, He does so clearly and directly. Often, people may feel unmotivated or on the verge of giving up, but this is exactly when God speaks more strongly in their hearts. The divine call is an invitation to remain firm, because spiritual victory is not achieved easily but through perseverance in faith. Imagine a farmer who plants a seed and waits patiently for the harvest, even facing storms and droughts. That's how the walk with God is. What you plant in faith and trust will be reaped at the right time, but not without a struggle. In moments of doubt, God emphasizes the importance of not giving up. When He calls you, it's because He knows there is an imminent blessing waiting for you. It's as if He's telling you, the answer is closer than you think. In these moments, trust in God is essential. He doesn't abandon you, and even when circumstances seem tough, faith and hope in His plans will lead you to victory. Just like an athlete who trains hard even without seeing immediate results, you too must stay strong, knowing that God by your side will give you the strength you need. The divine call isn't an extraordinary event for a few, but a message accessible to all who seek overcoming with God. When you hear this message, it's the Creator Himself encouraging you to lift your head and not be overwhelmed by difficulties. If you look around, you'll see signs of divine miracles in the small things of everyday life, showing that God not only listens to you but is working for you. How many times have you been told that the miracle was impossible? Yet, God always makes the impossible happen when you trust. Many times, the divine call comes at moments when everything seems lost. It's in these moments that God reminds you, it's not time to give up, your victory is near. You may feel tired and emotionally drained, but God knows how strong you are, and He never allows a battle greater than what you can bear. Perseverance in faith is what leads you to overcome the toughest challenges. It's at this point that, by lifting your head, you realize that the struggle was not in vain. Every difficulty is shaping your victory. God's call is a message that echoes in the heart of all who are willing to listen. Perhaps you're wondering if this message is for you. The answer is simple. Yes, it's for you. When God calls, He knows exactly what's happening in your life, and the answer to your prayers is approaching. You may not yet see the path, but have faith and hope. Your role is to stay firm, knowing that the imminent blessing is just a step away. With God by your side, He will guide you every step of the way. This divine call may be what you've been waiting for to give a new direction to your life. Think about how many times you've felt incapable or lost. Now is the time to believe that your victory is approaching, and it's not just about having faith but also about trusting in God's perfect timing. The answer to your requests is about to arrive, and the miracle you've long awaited will become a reality. Believe, God is calling you to lift your head because the victory you seek is closer than you imagine. Emotional and spiritual weariness. Emotional and spiritual weariness can deeply affect anyone's life. When fatigue takes over the mind and heart, it's easy to feel like your strength is running out, and many begin to question their faith and trust in God. However, it's precisely in these moments that perseverance in faith becomes most necessary. God watches over you and knows your limits. He knows how much you're trying. Spiritual victory may seem distant, but with God by your side, He never abandons you, even when the journey feels too heavy to bear. Just like a runner who, at the end of a long marathon, feels their legs giving way, spiritual weariness can make you doubt if you'll reach the finish line. But remember, the moment of greatest weakness is also when God renews your strength. Faith and hope in God's promise are the fuel that will keep you moving forward, even when everything around you seems to be falling apart. Trusting in God is not based on circumstances, but on the certainty that He is faithful to fulfill His promises. It is at this point that the divine miracle begins to manifest. Many who face emotional and spiritual weariness feel disconnected, as if victory is out of reach. However, this weariness is a sign that an imminent blessing is on the way. The divine call often comes amidst exhaustion, inviting you to lift your head and continue, even when it seems impossible. A clear example of this is the prophet Elijah himself, who, exhausted, went to a cave seeking refuge. Yet God did not allow him to give up and renewed his strength, showing that fatigue was not the end but the beginning of a new chapter. Weariness might even make you doubt your own ability, but it's precisely when you feel you can't go on that God steps in. He calls you to trust once again, to place all your worries in His hands. Overcoming with God means believing that He is strengthening you even in the invisible battles, those that no one around you can see, but that you fight internally. Faith is the foundation that supports your soul, and even when the body feels weak, the spirit can be renewed by trusting in God. As much as emotional weariness makes you feel vulnerable, it's important to remember that God is preparing something greater for you. He sees what you cannot, and the spiritual victory you've been waiting for is closer than you think. Persevere in faith and know that when discouragement sets in, God is preparing the ground for a major breakthrough. Weariness, difficult as it may be, is a process that precedes the imminent blessing. You may feel worn out now, but God calls you to lift your head and trust that He is taking care of every detail. This moment of weariness is a call to trust even more in what God can do. You are not alone in this battle. He has already prepared the victory, and the weariness you feel today is just a temporary phase, a preparation for the great victory that is to come. Just like Elijah, who experienced spiritual renewal, God also desires to renew your strength and place you on a new level. Lift your head because what's coming is far greater than what's behind. Promise of victory. Even when the circumstances around you seem to indicate that victory is far off, God remains faithful to His promises. He never promised that the path would be easy, but He guaranteed that the reward would be great for those who trust in Him. Often, challenges pile up in a way that seems impossible to overcome, but it is precisely in these moments that God calls you to remember that the promise of victory has already been made. Faith and perseverance are the instruments that lead you to this imminent blessing, for God never fails. When everything seems to be against you, remember that God by your side has already guaranteed the final outcome. The promise of victory goes beyond earthly circumstances. When you put your trust in God, you know that even the darkest moments are under His control. Imagine a farmer who plants a seed, knowing that the harvest won't come immediately but will arrive at the right time. That's how God's promises are. They are planted in your heart, and with perseverance in faith, you will see the fruits. No matter how strong the winds may blow against you, trust in God sustains you, knowing that the divine miracle is just a matter of time. It may be that, looking around, you feel that the odds are against you. But remember, God works on His own terms and timelines. The divine call you received was not in vain. Even if the winds are strong, God has already prepared the ground for your spiritual victory. He encourages you to lift your head, to move forward with faith and hope, knowing that victory is certain. It's like the story of Joseph, who, despite facing imprisonment and betrayal, never lost his trust in God. In the end, the promise of victory that God made to him was fulfilled in a magnificent way. The promise of victory doesn't mean you'll be free from difficulties. On the contrary, it involves facing challenges with your head held high, confident that God is by your side. When everything seems unfavorable, it's important to remember that victory doesn't depend on circumstances but on God's faithfulness. He has already guaranteed that if you persevere and keep trusting Him, you will see doors open miraculously. Christ Himself taught us that the path to spiritual victory passes through difficulties, but the final result is always glorious for those who persevere. Overcoming with God means believing in the impossible. When the promise of victory was made, God already had in mind all the battles you would face, and He prepared you to win them. Along the way, it's normal to feel the weight of adversity, but know that these are part of the process. Each obstacle overcome brings you closer to the imminent blessing that God has prepared. Lift your head, for your trust in God is leading you to a glorious destination. The faith and hope you hold today are the fuel that will make you reach that victory. The promise of victory is what gives you the strength to continue when the world seems to be against you. God has called you to be a victor, and this promise will never fail. If you remain steadfast, you will see that the answer to your prayers is closer than you think. Perseverance in faith is the key to opening the doors that God has already prepared for you. Move forward, knowing that each step brings you closer to the realization of the plans God has laid out for your life. Example of Elijah. The story of Elijah is a powerful example of how God works in the lives of those who trust in His will, even in times of fatigue and discouragement. Elijah, a prophet greatly used by God, reached a point of such intense physical and spiritual exhaustion that he sought refuge in a cave, trying to hide from the world and even from himself. This is a scenario many people may recognize in their own lives when emotional weariness seems unbearable. But it is precisely at this moment that God steps in, calling Elijah out of the cave, renewing his strength, and showing that He wasn't done with him. This story teaches us that even when we feel worn out, God doesn't allow us to give up. He knows our weaknesses, but He also knows the potential He has placed in each of us. The divine call often comes in moments of deep fatigue, as it did with Elijah. And just as he was invited to get up and continue his journey, you too are called by God to lift your head because your spiritual victory is closer than you think. When circumstances pressure you to stop, it's the moment when God invites you to trust in His promises and keep going. Elijah's story is a reminder that even great men of faith face moments of weakness. God didn't rebuke him for feeling exhausted, but encouraged him to leave the cave and continue his mission. This attitude from God shows us that He is with us in every situation, even the most difficult ones. You may be feeling like Elijah now, isolated and without strength, but God's call for your life remains. Overcoming with God comes when you understand that fatigue is only a temporary phase and that the imminent blessing is on its way. Elijah's victory didn't come without him facing great challenges first. He had to deal with corrupt kings, persecutions, and even his own doubt, but God never left him alone. Similarly, in your journey, God is by your side, even when the battles seem unbearable. Elijah's example shows us that when we lift our heads and trust in God's plan, divine miracles happen. The exhaustion you feel might be a sign that God is about to open new doors. The secret is not to give up, even when everything seems to be against you. Another essential point in Elijah's story is the moment when he consecrated a cup of water, and God used that simple act to renew his strength and purify him spiritually. This gesture teaches us that sometimes it's necessary to stop, breathe, and reconnect with the divine to find the spiritual renewal we so desperately need. Elijah left that cave with a new vision, with renewed faith and hope. God offers the same renewal for you, and perhaps this is the moment to consecrate something simple in your life so that He can transform your reality. Just like Elijah, you may also be facing battles that seem bigger than your strength. However, God reminds you that the end has not yet come and that a victory awaits you. When you lift your head and trust in God's timing, divine miracles begin to manifest. No matter how worn out you are, God has a promise of victory for you. Perseverance in faith and trust in God are the keys that will lead you to that victory. Spiritual renewal. Spiritual renewal is a direct invitation from God to restore your soul and strengthen your spirit. Just as the body needs rest to keep going, the spirit also needs moments of pause and deep connection with God. Often, in the rush of daily life, the worries and challenges of life make us forget that, above all, it's the Spirit that maintains balance. God is calling you to stop for a moment and allow Him to renew your strength, just as He did with Elijah. The consecrated cup of water that Elijah used as a symbol of his renewal represents the simplicity of the act of trusting in God for the purification and strengthening of the soul. Just as water is essential for the body, spiritual renewal is vital for your walk with God. When you feel worn out and without strength, it's a sign that it's time to seek this renewal. This process involves surrendering your worries to God and fully trusting in Him. A practical example of this is prayer, a moment when you connect directly with the Creator. Take some time each day to pray, asking God to renew your energy, cleanse your emotions, and purify your soul. This simple act of consecration brings with it a powerful transformation. Spiritual renewal can also occur through actions that bring you closer to God. Reading the Holy Scriptures, listening to an uplifting message, or even meditating on the divine miracles He has already performed in your life are ways to seek this renewal. Faith and hope are constantly renewed when you make this conscious effort to draw closer to God. Just as the consecrated cup of water was a symbol of purification for Elijah, you can also create daily moments to reconnect spiritually, reminding yourself that God is always by your side, ready to strengthen you. This process of renewal is crucial for facing the challenges that arise in your journey. When emotional and spiritual weariness is great, spiritual renewal becomes an essential moment to recharge your energy. Just as a tree needs water to continue growing, You also need divine grace to keep moving forward. God will never leave you alone in your moments of exhaustion. On the contrary, He calls you to rest in Him, knowing that your strength will be restored. Lifting your head and seeking this renewal is an act of faith that brings results. Moreover, spiritual renewal doesn't have to be a grand event. Sometimes small moments of prayer or reflection, like consecrating a simple cup of water, can have a profound impact on your life. God doesn't need grand rituals to act. He moves through your faith and open heart. Allow yourself to experience this renewal in your daily routine. Small actions, like reading a verse before bed or waking up with a prayer, can transform your day and bring the strength needed to face challenges. Spiritual renewal is what allows you to continue even when the struggles seem endless. When God invites you to this moment of rest and purification, He is saying that victory is near, but you need to be renewed to receive it. Trust in this process, knowing that God is with you every step of the way. Lifting your head and seeking this renewal is essential to move forward with faith and hope that the best is yet to come. Messages of hope. The messages of hope that God sends are a constant reminder that He hasn't forgotten you. When everything seems to be falling apart, God calls you to lift your head and trust in Him. He is working in your life, even if you can't yet see clearly. Every difficulty you face is an opportunity to experience overcoming with God, for it is in the struggles that His presence becomes most evident. Just as a tree grows its roots deeper in times of drought, your faith and hope can be strengthened in times of adversity, knowing that God is by your side in every challenge. God has chosen you and has great plans for your life. Even if you are tired or overwhelmed, He has not stopped hearing your prayers. On the contrary, He is preparing something grand, an imminent blessing that will only come with your perseverance in faith. When things seem to make no sense, that's when God is shaping you for something greater. The messages of hope are like a beacon in the darkness, guiding you to a place of spiritual victory. With God by your side, you have everything you need to keep moving forward, even when the road seems tough. You might be wondering why God hasn't answered your prayers immediately. The truth is that He is working behind the scenes, preparing the perfect stage for His will to manifest in your life. It's like a farmer who waits patiently for the harvest, even when the fruits are not yet visible. Trust in God is the key to getting through these moments of waiting. He is acting quietly but powerfully, and your victory is closer than you think. Lifting your head and staying firm is what will lead you to the fulfillment of divine promises. The messages of hope that God sends are filled with promises. He constantly reminds you that no matter how difficult the journey is, overcoming with God is guaranteed. A practical example of how we can apply this hope in our daily lives is to take time to reflect on everything God has already done for you, recognizing the small divine miracles that occur every day. This simple act of gratitude opens the way for God to do even more in your life, allowing you to see beyond the immediate obstacles. God never abandons you, and His messages of hope are proof of that. When you most need a word of comfort, He is there, whispering in your heart that things will get better. It could be a Bible passage you read, a word you hear in a sermon, or even something that happens in your daily life that reminds you that God is in control. These messages are like seeds that, when planted in fertile soil, bloom into blessings. The key is to keep faith and hope, trusting that God's promise for your life will be fulfilled. Finally, the messages of hope are the fuel to keep going. God invites you to believe that the best is yet to come, that today's struggles are just the prelude to a grand spiritual victory. He sees your efforts, your tears, and your prayers and assures you that none of it is in vain. When you keep your trust in God, He leads you beyond the storms to a place of peace and prosperity. Lifting your head and moving forward with hope in your heart is the path that will lead you to this victory. Now that you understand that God is by your side, that He is calling you to lift your head, and that your victory is closer than you think, it's time to apply this knowledge to your life. What will you do with this message? Will you continue letting discouragement consume you, or will you rise with faith, trusting that God is already preparing your miracle? Only you can make that decision. The power of transformation is in your hands, and God is ready to act, but He is waiting for you to take the first step. Pause and reflect. What in your life needs a change? Which area of your life is crying out for a spiritual victory? Write in the comments what touched you most in this message or your prayer request, because we are ready to pray for you. If this word helped you in any way, I invite you to express your gratitude in the comments, as this is also a step of faith. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to continue receiving these messages that strengthen your walk with God.